In this video, we are going to talk about the agents of human infectious diseases and some of their characteristics. So, the agents of human infectious diseases belong to five major groups of organisms. These include bacteria, fungi, protozoa, helminths, and viruses. Bacteria belong to the prokaryotic kingdom, whereas fungi, which includes both yeast and molds, they belong to kingdom fungi, and protozoa are members of kingdom protists. Helminths, which are commonly called as worms, are classified into kingdom Animalia. Protists and fungi are distinguished from animals and plants by being either unicellular or relatively simple multicellular organisms. In contrast, helminths are complex multicellular organisms, but taken together, the helminths and protozoa are commonly called parasites. Viruses are quite distinct from other organisms as they are not cells but can replicate only within the cells. Some of the important features of microbes are presented in this table, as you can see, but we will talk about some of the more common and more important features. One salient feature is that bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and helminths are cellular, whereas viruses are not. This distinction is based primarily on three criteria. First is the structure. So, cells have a nucleus or nucleoid which contains DNA that is surrounded by a cytoplasm within which proteins are synthesized and energy is generated. Viruses have an inner core of genetic material, either DNA or RNA, but no cytoplasm, and so they depend on host cells to provide the machinery for protein synthesis and energy generation. The second criteria is the method of replications. Cells replicate either by binary fission or by mitosis, during which one parent cell divides to make two progeny cells while retaining its cellular structure. Prokaryotic cells, which includes bacteria, replicate by binary fission, whereas eukaryotic cells replicate by mitosis. In contrast, viruses disassemble, produce many copies of their nucleic acid and protein, and then reassemble into multiple progeny viruses. Furthermore, viruses must replicate within their host cells because they lack the protein synthesizing and energy generating systems. With the exception of rickettsia and chlamydia, which also require living host cells for growth, bacterial cells replicate extracellularly. So these are two bacteria, rickettsia and chlamydia, that require host for their growth. So the third criteria is nature of the nucleic acid. Cells contain both DNA and RNA, whereas viruses contain either DNA or RNA but not both. So some of the features that differentiate eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells are given below. Cells have evolved into two fundamentally different types, eukaryotic cells and the prokaryotic cells, which can be distinguished on the basis of their structure and the complexity of their organization. Fungi, protozoa, and helminths are eukaryotic, whereas bacteria are prokaryotic. The eukaryotic cells have a true nucleus with multiple chromosomes, which is surrounded by a nuclear membrane and uses a mitotic apparatus to ensure equal allocation of the chromosomes to the progeny cells. The nucleoid of a eukaryotic cell consists of a single circular molecule of loosely organized DNA lacking a nuclear membrane and mitotic apparatus. In addition to the different types of nuclei, the two classes of the cells are distinguished by several other characteristics. Eukaryotic cells contain organelles such as mitochondria and lysosomes, and they have larger ribosomes, whereas prokaryotic cells contain no organelles and they have a smaller ribosome. Most prokaryotes have a rigid external cell wall that contains peptidoglycan, a polymer of amino acids and sugars, as its unique structural component. Eukaryotes, on the other hand, do not contain peptidoglycan. Either they are bound by a flexible cell membrane, or in the case of fungi, they have a rigid cell wall which is made up of chitin, which is a homopolymer of an acetyl glucose amine, typically forming the framework. The eukaryotic cell membrane contains sterols, whereas no prokaryote except the wall-less mycoplasma has sterols in its membrane. Let's talk about the motility. Motility is another characteristic by which these organisms can be distinguished. Most protozoa and some bacteria are motile, whereas fungi and viruses are non-motile. The protozoa are a heterogeneous group that possesses three different organs of locomotion, which includes flagella, cilia, and pseudopods. The motile bacteria move only by means of flagella.